Hello everybody. I actually did this video earlier, but I had to re-record it because I was so mad earlier. You know, we like to talk a lot about all the problems in this industry, the trucking industry. I mean, there's a lot of things we could talk about, like because of the ELDs, how so many issues are arising because drivers aren't allowed to schedule delivery appointments, which cause all kinds of issues. But the drivers aren't allowed to be responsible, but they're expected to bear all the weight of that responsibility when things go wrong. But those are things that we have little control over, because you need the government to get involved to fix them things. As much as I hate the government to be involved, but until the government tells the industry that the driver has to actually make the delivery appointment times so that the driver is allowed to take responsibility for the responsibilities that they're expected to bear. I'm here at a pilot in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And earlier, I was watching a CRST trying to back up. I was going to get out and help the guy, because clearly, you could tell just all the problems he was having backing up. You could tell he literally probably just finished the class at CRST. He's probably, if he's not out on his first day, he's probably out on his first week of actually driving. So he's having a really hard time backing up. But then I realized it's CRST. So, somebody having that hard of a issue backing up is obviously out with the trainer. So why wasn't the trainer getting off his lazy fucking ass and getting out and training his student? This is the problem in this industry. You have companies like CRST that they don't want trainers. They're labeling people trainers, but they don't want trainers. They want team drivers. And they're giving these people a label as a trainer, and the trainer is nowhere qualified to be a trainer. I've been driving 12 years, and I'm finally to the point where I consider myself qualified to be a trainer. I mean, I actually about the 9-year mark. I used to work for Cypress, and I had signed up for the to be a trainer then. I was going on 9 years. I had about 8.5 years in. And, that was the point where I finally felt like, maybe I'm qualified to be a trainer. But you have these companies like CRST and other companies like it that, they're taking guys with 3 months training, with 3 months experience. They've had their CDL for 3 months. And they're saying, hey, you're a trainer. And to top it all off, they're not only giving people unqualified to be a trainer the trainer title, but they're giving people that don't even want to train the trainer title. Like the piece of shit that was obviously supposed to be training the guy in this truck earlier. And the guy gave up trying to back into the spot that he was trying to back in up over here, and he wound up moving on, and he tried backing in somewhere else, and he tried another time, and the trainer never got out the truck. The trainer never got out of the truck. The trainer, the person who's supposed to get out of the truck, get off their fucking lazy ass and help this student who's struggling back up the truck. And it really ticks me off. I mean, I'm getting out of the industry. I'm working on something to get out of the industry. Because, it's just, there's just so much. I mean, it's not any one thing. I mean, I love the people I work with. I work with really good people. And it has nothing, I'm with her really, but it's not, it doesn't matter that I'm with really good people. It's the problem that I'm stuck out here on the road putting my life at risk because companies like CRST and other companies like it don't want to put qualified trainers in their truck to train their students. And then drivers like me are being killed every day because of companies like CRST, Swift, CR England. The list just goes on and on and on and on and on. And because of these companies, that they're going out here and they're screaming, oh, we need this for safety, we need that for safety, and they don't give a fuck about safety. But they're out here screaming, we need all these regulations, we need all this, and we need all that for driver safety. But they don't give a fuck. They don't give one single bit of fuck about your and mine safety. You can tell because, like I said here earlier, the kind of people that they have training. I'm not blaming the student. It's not really the student's fault. He's stuck with this piece of shit that, CRST is saying, hey, we're going to put you out with the trainer. And then they put him out with just a total piece of shit. Doesn't want to get out the truck and teach this guy how to back his truck up. Doesn't want to get out the truck and help talk the guy through. And can you imagine what he's doing? He's probably not doing anything to help this guy in situations when he's driving down the road. I can only imagine what this poor trainee is going through. I got lucky. First of all, I got really lucky because I went to a good school. So by the time I actually got in my first truck with my first trainer, I was already competent. I was still inexperienced, but I was competent. Despite my inexperience, I was competent because the competency was ingrained in me from the school. It was already ingrained in me from, my father and, just being taught to respect, being out on the road. Not even in the truck, but from being in the car. My father was a truck driver, but just from being in the car, there was a level of competency that was already ingrained in me. And then when I went to a really good school, that got elevated. And then I went through Knight's Squire program before they were ever involved with Swift. So, and then on top of all that, I had the head trainer. I had the guy who worked with Raphael, Ryan. He worked with Raphael. Him and Raphael are the ones that created the Squire program. They put that whole system together. So, I was just really lucky. I've with the exception of when I actually went to work for CRST. I did go to work for CRST. I tried to buy a truck from them. Biggest mistake in my career. The only mistake I actually made in my career. Can I actually say that? That was the only mistake I made in my career. But fortunately, they came in the middle of the night and stole my truck. And so, they were never able to put a black spot on my credit or anything like that because they're the ones that broke the lease. I didn't break the lease. They broke the lease. So I got lucky on that too. But that's the only black spot on my whole career. I've had bumps. I'm not perfect. I'm not God's gift to trucking. I've made my mistakes. But as far as mistakes that, that's the one that I always look at. I like that was my big mistake was going to CRST. And even then, when I was leasing my truck, they were trying to make me a trainer. And at that time, I knew I wasn't a trainer. And I was a better driver than most of their trainers. I remember my road test. And everybody in the truck, including the guy who's road testing me. They're like, wow, man, this guy drives fucking great. You know, everybody's complimenting my driving, including the guy who's road testing me. And I'm thinking, I'm like, man, this guy, you know. But then, you know, I got thinking about it, and, you know, I've been around other guys that, you know, they had years of experience above me, and they couldn't shift the truck as good as me. You know. So, you know, it's just, but then you realize the trainers that these people are out with, it's no wonder they can't shift a truck. I mean, the irony to when Ryan let me, he didn't teach me how to float the gears. He was letting me double clutch. When I got in the truck with Ryan, I was double clutching. Then one day I realized I wasn't actually depressing the clutch pedal anymore. So then I was like, oh, wait a minute. And then I just started floating the gears. I realized I've been floating the gears for a couple weeks here. I didn't even realize I was floating gears. And I don't know, I'm going down the road and I'm shifting through. And Ryan looks at me, he says, you know, I've been waiting to see how long it was before you're going to stop bumping that clutch pedal, you know. Because he said the same thing. You've been floating gears for weeks now, but you kept, you know, and I've just been waiting for you to realize that you're floating the gears. and you know, but he was always there. He was watching me. He was always paying attention to me. I mean, and he showed me, you know, he's been putting it down that, you know, he actually had it down on my report. You know, he'd been reporting for weeks that I was floating the gears. You know, I was just bumping the clutch with my foot, thinking I'm still using the clutch, double clutching. And I wasn't even depressing the clutch enough to be double clutching. And, you know, he just let me learn naturally to float the gears. And it did. That's the best way to let somebody learn that. If they're double clutching, let them go through. And if you notice that they're not, just let them realize that they're not actually clutching anymore. Let them learn, you know, and it comes. And I think that's why, you know, I've gotten in trucks with people that, you know, at the time I was only driving for, you know, 2-3 years. Like I said, a CRST. I had a guy next to me that, you know, supposedly had, you know, he has all these years. And he's amazed at how smooth I'm shifting the truck. He's like, wow, man, it's not too often you see somebody shift a truck like this, you know? And the students, I mean, it was flattering, it was cool. But in hindsight, looking back on it, it makes you realize how inadequately everybody's being trained anymore, because they're being put out with trainers that the trainer doesn't even know how to drive the truck, but he's a trainer. And like I said, even for myself, I mean, they kept trying to get me to train, and I was like, no, I'm not ready to be training somebody. I'm barely out of my rookie status, you know. I mean, when I went to CRST, I guess I had 2.5 years underneath my belt. So I was 6 months outside of my rookie status. You know, rookie, technically, you're 2 years. You're a rookie. You know, for your first 2 years, that's your rookie. And, you know, I have these people telling me, oh, no, man, you need to start training. No, I don't need to start training. I know I need to finish learning. No, you need to start training. No, I need to finish learning. No, you need to start training. No, I need to finish learning. You know, I'm arguing with these people. They're trying to give me a pay raise and give me a title that I understood that I didn't deserve it. But too many people don't realize that. And then you got the other part of that group that, you know they're not a trainer, but they just don't give a shit. They're like, yeah, I'm making all this money, you know, they're just letting their rookie I'm letting this guy do all the driving, I'm getting paid for all the miles, you know? And these are the kind of people that are out training people now. And I was so mad. I mean, the video I shot earlier, man, I went and I found the truck, and I had the truck in the video there. I was heated about it. But, you know, I was just so, if you think I've been flagrant in this video, man, you believe me. I was worse than a drunken sailor on that first video, man. I was so mad. And, you know, but this is the problem. We need people that are going to be out actually training people. Like I said, it wasn't until I drove it was around my 8-year mark that I started feeling like, yeah, you know what? I'm ready to start training people. You know, I want to be a trainer, you know, and it wasn't about the money. And it wasn't so much, it was a little bit about the title because I wanted to be able to check that box off on my career. But it was also the point that I finally felt like I was at that point where I qualified to check that point off on my career. And I mean, it is something I'd like to do. I'd like to be, before I leave this career, I'd like to be able to say I was a trainer. I wouldn't have a problem training. I mean, I have no problem going, you know, like, I can't sleep when somebody's driving the truck. I just can't. I've seen too many dead bodies on the side of the road because of these right here. These cell phones. I've seen too many dead bodies because of these. And it's becoming more and more common to go down the road. And even watching them, you know, you're driving down the road, you're passing them, and you're looking in their mirror, and they're driving like this. I don't want to be in the sleeper while somebody's driving down the road like this here. I want to wake up. I don't want to be one of them statistics. I have enough against me as it is. The chance, it's actually more probable that I'm going to die as a truck driver than I'm going to leave this career. The probabilities are flipping to the point where it's becoming more likely that I'm going to die as a truck driver than retire as a truck driver. I'm actually safer going out and becoming a cop in Brooklyn, Detroit, LA, Miami. I'm actually safer being a cop in the slums in gang-ridden territory than I am driving a truck. I'm more likely to die driving a truck than cops in those areas. That's sad. I can remember when I was when I used to run convenience stores, you know, I used to always worry about my clerks. You know, it's part of the reason why I'm not in retail management anymore on that. You know, that's why I don't run convenience stores anymore, because, you know, there was a time when the most dangerous job in America was being an overnight clerk in a 24-hour store. You were more likely to die on the job than any other career in the United States as a overnight clerk. And that's when I was running stores. And that's why I don't run convenience stores anymore. But it's just horrible trainers that should not be training are training. And, you know, it needs to be fixed. These companies need to be start being held accountable for putting inadequate trainers behind the wheel of a trainer truck. When your trainer is inadequate to be a trainer, you need to bear the responsibility of putting that person behind the wheel and labeling them as a trainer. It's time to start holding the companies accountable. You know, like I said, I didn't feel I was qualified to be a trainer till I was 8 years in. And I had years of people telling me you need to start training. And I was like, no, I'm not qualified yet. So where does qualification come in? I don't know. I don't think anybody under 2 years at all should be training. If you've got less than 2 years on your license, you should not be training. Even if you're somebody, I understand there's exceptions to every rule, and I get it. And you're going to get somebody that, they grew up on the farm, and maybe they were driving the truck around the farm and this and that, but they still don't have the over-the-road experience. As experienced as they might be, they don't have the over-the-road experience. Maybe they were out with their father, mother, whatever, for, their uncle, aunt, whoever, for years and years and years on the road. So I'm not saying that they're not competent, but they're not qualified to be a trainer. I mean, it's definitely not under 2 years. I mean, it should be a minimum, a minimum of, 2 to 3 years experience before you can be labeled a trainer, before you are even allowed to take that title. Like I said, I understand that there are people out there that are more competent than others, and there's probably going to be people that, a year on the road and they could be a good trainer. I realize this, but, they're the exception to the rule, and they're a rarity. I possibly could have filled them shoes, but I didn't feel that I was ready. But maybe there's, and I realize that, like I'm saying, I realize that there's some people out there that they probably could fill them shoes, but that's besides the point. The fact of the matter is, most people cannot. Most people, I hate to say it, but most drivers out here that have been driving for 2 or 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, they're not even competent enough to be driving the trucks. There's not most, but there's a lot. There's a lot of drivers out here that have been driving for years that they're not even competent enough to be driving these trucks. They just been lucky. I mean, shit happens, mistakes happen, accidents happen. I get that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just, the type I'm talking about. You going down the road in a blizzard, you're trying to find some place to get off, you're trying to see past the hood of your truck, you're snow blind, 80 miles an hour, because it's an 80 mile an hour highway. There's some people, they just do not belong behind the wheel of a truck. So the type of people I'm talking about. I'm not talking about people that just, I get it. Shit happens. I've had accidents. I've had, like I said, I went, had a phone interview, had a 6-figure job lined up. I had a 6-figure job. It was mine. I had the job. They wanted me to quit. The guy wanted me to quit with the company I'm with and come down to Tennessee right away. And I told him, I said, I can't do that. And he loved it. He was like, I'm so glad you said that. He says, you got the job. The job's yours. He says, I'm so glad you said that. You're hired. This is your job. You got the position. We're taking you on. You're hired. We're going to take you. Because I told him, I said, I'm not going to abandon the company I'm with. I told him what happened. I explained to him about, went down to Daytona, went climbing my brother. I failed a drug test because I got drink that wasn't meant for me. We all got food. We all thought we had food poisoning. Turned out we all got drugged. And, it created so many problems for me. But then this company, they gave me a chance. They took me on as a contractor, and I've been with them now over 3 years, Never failed a drug test again. Never failed a drug test prior to that, And, so, they gave me the chance, and, it's worked out for us all. But I gave them my 2-week notice. It was 6 or 7 days before I was supposed to leave for Tennessee, and somebody hit underneath my. It was my fault. At the end of the day, it was my fault. The insurance company thinks the guy did it on purpose. They think he knew what he was doing because the way he even said it. He says, he saw that I had my turn signal on, and he decided to hide underneath my fender. He actually admitted, I saw his turn signal on, and I sped up and I slowed down. I couldn't get past him, so I just hit there underneath his fender. The guy said it. But what happened was, when I looked in the mirror, I saw a black car. I put my signal on. I was looking ahead to make sure that the car ahead of me was actually going ahead. Then I looked in my mirror again, and I saw a black car, but this time the black car was farther back. It wound up being two different black cars. I start coming over. Crunch, 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 crunch. And I blew my... I was a 1,000,000-mile driver. No accidents. It was my first at-fault accident. So I just reset my whole 1,000,000-mile. I was a 1,000,000-mile driver, and I reset my whole 1,000,000-mile. And so I lost a 6-figure job. I was supposed to go to work. I mean, I was going to go to work for a band, for a company. Touring. I mean, dream job. I play guitar. I have my acoustic in my truck with me. I got guitars at home. I've played, music's always been a part of my life. I mean, this was like the ultimate dream job. I mean, this would have been the pinnacle of my career. This would have been the job to retire from. I would have been like, yeah, music was always part of my life, and I left my career on tour with Metallica, or on tour with Reba McEntire, or on tour with Dire Straits. Who knows, but I mean, that's the thing. I was going to work they only worked with A-list bands. I was going to be on tour with A-list bands, top tier bands. I mean, we're not talking garage. I mean, no disrespect to garage bands. I love garage bands, but we're not talking garage bands. We're talking actual top tier names. Metallica, Reba McEntire, AC/DC, big names. I'm just drawing a blank right now. Normally I can name 1,000 bands off the top of my head from any genre. And just something stupid. And I lost the job because I lost my 1,000,000-mile credentials. So, I get it. Shit happens. But the trainers, man, they need to start, and the irony is, most of the companies that are putting these adequately trained and skilled trainers behind the wheels of these trucks and labeling them trainers, they're from the ATAs. These are the big companies that, the so-called, so worried about safety. It's just a big lobbying group, the ATA. But it's the companies with the ATA badge that are putting the worst trainers out here on the road. These are the same companies that are part of the ATA. So worried about safety, yet they're putting the worst trainers possible behind the wheels of the truck. They're putting the most unqualified trainers you can imagine behind the wheel of the truck and letting them train. So, I just had a rant about it. I've had enough. I mean, like I said, I'm more likely to die in this career than to retire from this career now as it is. And then I got to deal with, a big ATA company putting trainers like that behind in the truck with a student. And it's disgusting. And it's horrible. And the fact that the ATA has the audacity to go out and preach people about safety when they're allowing that to happen. It's just